every time I do ward service, I am struggling at life. It's 2 months of the whole year that I feel like I abandoned myself, I abandoned my freedom, I abandoned myself. When I was a younger consultant, I'd be quite worried about, being exposed to not know stuff, maybe worried about what would come my way. Would I be able to handle it? Had I ever seen it before? So that part that used to stress me out is no longer stressing me out.
That feeling of being restricted or needing to ask for permission or get somebody to swap your ward service or hold your baby, the loss of freedom is what makes it hard.
I feel unhappy because this steals my freedom. I just have to suck it, really. I just have to accept that. Or is there any other solution?
We want to accept that everything has downsides, but if we're telling ourselves that this isn't my choice, I'm being forced, we're lying to ourselves.
So I do choose to do it for my own professional development.
This is an opportunity for you to own those choices and with that stop feeling forced. It's an opportunity to stop spending all your time focusing on the downsides of your choices and recognize for a moment, oh, this is why I choose this.
That's a lot for me to hear. It's most inconvenient.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Beck.
And I am Christine Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalise the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong? Hello, welcome back, our beautiful friends, our Dr. Humans, to another episode of the Poddy. And today we're going to be unpacking something a little bit spicy, maybe a little bit controversial. And we really want to talk about why ward service feels so hard. And the reason I want to talk about this is because personally, I find every time I do ward service, I am struggling at life. It's just, I'm not able to thrive and be on ward service at the same time. I have tried a million different ways to fix this, which we'll get into. But I also have this thing where I felt for the longest time that maybe I was the only person that felt this way, that I wasn't quite winning and it was something about me that was the problem. But then I was talking to a close friend and colleague recently, and she was really just saying the same thing as I was. And it's just not something we share publicly. We kind of keep it to ourselves. But after speaking to her, I felt brave to speak to someone else. And I'm realizing that I think that a lot of people are having difficulties with ward service in this way. It's kind of cancel my everything, takes over my life, and it's unpleasant in terms of the energetics of it. So I just wanted to have a conversation with you guys today, just to share what I've been trying, what's been good, what's been bad, how can we make this better, and kind of understanding the root cause of this, but also just to normalize the situation. If you, like me, were thinking that maybe you were the problem or you're the only one who's ever experienced this.
Yeah, 100%. And just as you said that, I've coached on this so many times with so many different clients because it's a really common experience for us to, let me just drop the word dread. Dread, that's where it starts, isn't it? You know that the ward service is coming up, or for the surgeons it's been on call, and you feel this dread, and it doesn't unfortunately start when the clock ticks over and suddenly you're on call for that day. It starts days before, and it's this thing that we just learn to dread, and sadly in so many ways accidentally kind of structure our life around.
You were saying there, Beck, is that you kind of start to dread it before it happens. And I know that I relate to that, especially because I know myself that I feel so bad when I do it. And I'm like, oh. And I think I used to do that because I was anxious about a lot of things in the clinical space. Like when I was a younger consultant, I'd be quite worried about, being exposed to not know stuff, maybe worried about what would come my way. Would I be able to handle it? Had I ever seen it before? It's such a mystery box that there's so much uncertainty in it. And I think that was what used to be a key problem for me. And I'm sure many people listening can relate to that. And I think now it's not that I don't have that same understanding that I could bump into something that is unfamiliar to me. I might not have all the answers. I just kind of at a stage where I'm sort of trusting that I'll be able to figure it out, and me not knowing something doesn't necessarily mean anything bad. I just need to be authentic about that. And so I've kind of changed that way. So that part that used to stress me out is no longer stressing me out. But I think with the clinical work, actually, I enjoy that bit. Like, I enjoy the ward round. I enjoy the registrars and the residents and hanging out with them. It's not actually the clinical work right now that is causing me the pain. I think ultimately what I'm realizing is it's more to do with the restriction and not being able to do all the things that I would normally do that help me to thrive, which include things like turning my phone on silent and do not disturb, and making time for self-care. My routine's all shot. I'm driving around more. I'm not at home as much. All of my self-care kind of goes out the window.
You struck a chord that is actually resonating with a sort of analogous experience I'm having in my life right now, where you are clear in yourself that right now, what makes the ward service hard, as you say, for you, it isn't the things that we think on a superficial level make it hard, which is like the technicalities of medicine. Even the sleep deprivation, the interrupted sleep, and then having to perform and uphold our competence in what can be really difficult and more commonly than in our normal day jobs in medicine. When you're on the emergency call line, the more high stakes situations, it's actually not about competence for you and being able to show up and perform that makes ward service hard. So can you tell me a little bit more about how this is kind of evolving for you and how you're actually getting closer and closer to the real reason why it's hard? Because if we can identify the actual problem, we are so much closer to a solution for ourselves. It's such a frustrating waste of time to go to work trying to fix something in our life only to find that we've finally fixed it, we've solved the problem. You know, we've finally gotten organized, for example, only to find out that actually organization, not being organized, it wasn't the problem in the first place.
I'm so glad you said that, Beck, because obviously there are those things along the way that maybe the clinical stuff can make us anxious and can make us dread it as well. And I've certainly been there too. But I think like more and more as I go through my career, that's lessening. So I'm so delighted to say that that's not really the source of the ward service dread. And it's been a kind of an iterative process for me. So I've been recognizing and probably whinging at you all the time on Voxer about how I'm not coping at life when I'm on ward service. So I'm doing the ward service well, turning up to ward rounds, fine, seeing the registrars, doing all things, looking after the patients. The actual ward service itself is going well. I'm doing a good job of that. And it's like the rest of my life just kind of falls apart in the background. But more so, not even just the rest of my life, I don't feel right. I don't feel great. I feel exhausted. It sounds dramatic, but it feels like burnout. It feels like your lifeblood has been drained from you in some way. Your cup is not full, is how I feel. And usually it's not the first week. I can kind of get through the first week. It's the second week that really I'm limping to the end. And because I know this about myself, I've been trying to figure out why, right? Because I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, I need to fix this. I need to figure out, A, B, C and address it. What is the problem here? Because I don't want to feel this way on ward service. So I've been coming at this like every time I'm on ward service, okay, we learned this last time. So this time I'm going to go in and I'm going to try and fix it.
Can I just say I love this about you? Like, so for so many of us, we just accept that it's hard and it's exhausting and it feels burnouty and that's just how it is. And I just love that you're like, no, I want better for my life. I want better for my life. I'm not going to spend 2 weeks of my life multiple times a year feeling like this. Let's figure it out. I love that about you. Sorry, go on.
On a total side note though, I think I drive people nuts with that. We'll be in a meeting at work about some system or something like that, or a new innovation that's coming, and I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. But just like to make it more joyful, can we do this? And I'm always using this word joyful, and I can feel everyone's eyes rolling.
Because like we were saying before, it's not just the 2 weeks, it's the time before. And it's also the recovery afterwards. And again, like I've worked with so many different consultants who have different interesting, sometimes really horrific schedules. And, sometimes your on-call is just like a scattered day or like every day of the week. Like if there's only 7 days in a week, your mind makes you spend the 3 days before dreading it, then the 2 days before kind of recovering from what a ick experience it was. Like there's only 1 day left in the week, 1 or 2 days left in the week to actually enjoy your life. If that's your schedule, and then boom, you hit a weekend. It's a problem that we deserve to solve. I want to see doctors just loving their lives and feeling alive. And we have to solve this on-call ward service problem. So I'm so grateful that you're bringing it up. So we've isolated this variable, competence. It's not competence that it's making it so hard. It's not even the high stakes emergency nature of all the possibilities that could happen on ward service that is making it feel hard. That's not it. That aside, what's the next hypothesis we're working with?
Don't get me wrong, me dreading something or me kind of like having this lack of lifeblood feeling, it could be resistance, right? It could be me just in my head having a lot of negative thoughts and therefore causing my own experience. So I sort of explored that and kind of understood that. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe it's because I'm not doing my self-care, I'm not doing my journaling, I'm not doing my exercise, I'm not doing all the things that I normally do. I would try and do those more. Now, in all honesty, it is actually, I haven't successfully done basic self-care during ward service. So that still remains a contender for this possibility. It definitely falls by the wayside, but it's just like, I don't have control over my time, which I think is probably getting closer to the actual.
Yeah.
But I tried it. I tried the self-care stuff. And I know we've spoken about this as well, Beck, is like when you're in a tough season, maybe it's not ward service, but you're hitting a deadline, you're in a phase, you've got exams coming up or something like that, and you're in your grind season. Like those are the times where you need your self-care the most, but you kind of abandon it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I can say I have tested that hypothesis because my fitness, my diet, all these kinds of like physical things, these are things that I have, like I've got consistency with these things and I've been consistent throughout medical school, internship, training, blah, blah, blah. Like it's a variable that I have been able to isolate. And for me personally, it might be different for other people. I worked out, I knew like the minimum dose that I needed to lift my energy back up and to, have all the beautiful effects, for example, of exercise that you get. And it still didn't make it less hard. It made it a bit better, but it didn't take that like, what's going on here? Why is this so difficult? And actually, I'm going to go grab the thing that helps us to explain our hypothesis today. Just 1 minute, my friends.
Yeah. Elevator music.
What I was doing just now is I was going out to collect my baby because my help time has ended, and Christine and I were like, that's okay. We'll just bring baby B on the podcast here. She'll do the podcast with us. It's fine. We'll make this work. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. So I went out to get her and I was greeted with, she's asleep. Those sweet, sweet words that every parent loves to hear. And the feeling that I had, as much as I love, I love my little bee, Christine knows I'll be like halfway voice messaging her and then I'll just start like goo-gooing over her because she blinked at me. She breathed my way. Goodness forbid she gives me like a smile. I'm out. Like I can't pay attention to anything else. I love her. And also, just like we love our clinical work, when you have something in your life that is so constant, that doesn't turn off, that takes up a 24-hour cycle in your life or more, that is hard. And what I've learned from having a baby is it doesn't even matter that in that period, in that continuous, relentless period, that you're not doing something that's technically hard or high stakes hard, like the clinical work that we do. That's what makes it even more amazing. The work that we do in these on-call and ward service settings, they are high stakes or intellectually challenging. They're uncertain, they're difficult in so many other ways. Our hypothesis at the moment that we're bringing you today is that is not actually what makes ward service hard for doctors, but it is the relentlessness of the long period of feeling like you don't have your freedom. You've lost your, what feels like a God-given right as a human adult to do what you want with your time, even if it's nothing. That feeling of being restricted or needing to ask for permission or get somebody to swap your ward service or hold your baby. There's nothing inherently terrible about those things or necessarily particularly difficult in the case of my gorgeous baby that I love so much. But the loss of freedom is what makes it hard.
It really is. And that's exactly where I arrive with this. And obviously I haven't had a baby, so I'm like, if I can't do ward service, I definitely don't think I cope with having a baby. But be that as it may, the parents are all like rolling their eyes at me like, Christine, you don't know what's going on. But I obviously learned this about myself because I was doing these iterations. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. And then I just realized on the last ward service, I was like, I love freedom. Freedom is my frequency. And ward service is not compatible with freedom. It's not. I can't change that about ward service. And so I've just come into the state of like, that's where I'm at. Like, I understand. And obviously I want to thrive on ward service. I want it to be a thrivey type experience. I don't want to be feeling bad about it or dreading it or any of those things. I don't want to feel that way about anything in life. But come into this interface of thinking, okay, well, now I understand it. I understand that it is just because I'm not free. I don't have control over my time, my energy. I don't even have control over filling up my cup. I'll get interrupted, there'll be calls, I have to have my phone with me all the time. It's just a different way of living. It's not disconnected, it's not free as a bird. And for some reason, I just understand that about myself, that is where I will thrive. And I think that's true for most of us on some level. Mine might be extreme, but ultimately I think that is probably true on some level for everyone listening. So I guess if that is the problem, like if that is the root cause or a dominant root cause, certainly for me and maybe for other people listening, of why this is hard on the ward service side, but even on the parenting side, Beck, you're becoming a ninja at this. So I guess, how do you take the understanding that I feel unhappy because this steals my freedom? I can't change that I just have to suck it, really. I just have to like accept that. Or is there any other solution? When I go into my next ward service, like, how do I approach this scenario, seeing it for what it is now?
And can I just rewind a little bit and say, I think this is really a great hypothesis for us to move on to here and test next and see if we can solve for, because this is inherently human to want freedom. You know, when I first started coaching, I was trying to like explain to people what coaching is and why you would do it. Like, why would you get mindset coaching? And I'm like, because then you have your power back. Like, then you're back in control. As I tried to find the magic words over the year to try and like make it obvious to people, I also realized like, well, the only reason that you feel like you want control and you want power is because you feel like you don't have it. It's because you feel like something else is controlling you, something else has power over you, because you don't have freedom. It's, as humans, we want the freedom to live our lives the way that we want. I don't think there's any worse feeling than being forced or contained. It's kind of like just being told no. You can't have what you want. You can't do what feels right. You can't live your life the way you want to live it. Actually, it just reminded me, in Dear Darling, last week we were talking about one of our members. She got the exact job she wanted. But she came to the session, she was like, I'm feeling forced, I'm feeling stuck, I'm feeling dread, I'm feeling overwhelmed, because this very same job that she very much wanted was the hardest job that she could do. And all of her colleagues are reiterating that. They're like, oh, you're like, yeah, you ready for this? You're okay? Because it's going to be a big one. There are these two parts of herself that coexist. One part was the part that was wanting that job and felt that desire, and that was her choice. She knew that was her choice. And the other part of her that was louder at the time was experiencing what you're describing, Christine, of that feeling like she was being forced and the dreading and the overwhelm. And you're like, how can both of these things be true at the same time? They seem like they're in direct conflict and they can't coexist, but the truth is they do. That's how the world works. The world isn't just purely positive or purely negative. Every upside has a downside. Every day comes with a night to follow. And once we realize that about our lives, then that is a way that in a situation we feel we don't have freedom, we feel stuck, we feel forced, that we can start to lift our heads up and see the other side of the coin, which is actually, I always do have a choice. What's true is I always am choosing where I'm at right now in this situation. If that concept rubs you the wrong way, then we might just be getting a little bit confused. This is the common confusion. People say, I would not choose this. I would not be choosing this. How can it be true that we always have a choice, that we always truly have freedom when, like, I don't want to be in this scenario? To say that you always have a choice and that you always have freedom isn't saying that you can control the world. It's saying that when you step back and you realize you're a fully autonomous adult human functioning in society, you're picking from the situations that are available to you. So, for example, you choose to go to your clinical job each day. And you might say, but Beck, if I wouldn't go to my clinical job if I had a choice not to. I'm forced to do it. If we really explored your mindset here, what we'd find is actually you're choosing the clinical job, even though you're like, but it has all these downsides. You're choosing it because the upsides outweigh the downsides at the time of choice. Just because you're only focusing on the downsides doesn't mean the upsides don't exist. And if at any point you became conscious and gave yourself the opportunity to exercise that freedom and to redecide, if the downsides outweighed the upsides at any point, when you're consciously aware, you'd stop choosing that. You'd be like, well, actually, now my career progression and the joy and the stimulation, the engagement that I get from my work, the challenge, the sense of progress, the money, the structure in my life, the sense of certainty that I get from my clinical work. Now, that is not as important to me as how much for example, the burnout hurts me, or the structure, the downside to the upside. The structure is no longer something that serves me. The truth is, and I know it's hard to hear, our freedom, it's like the sky. Our freedom always exists, right? And sometimes we just can't see it. That is very hard to hear about ward service, but that is the mindset solution to creating freedom when you feel like you have none. It's actually recognizing that that's the lie in the first place. I'm coaching myself a little bit right here now too, because my little bee is 4 months old now, and I've never felt so contained in my life. And anytime I start to, stomp my feet and tell myself, it's not fair, I'm stuck always looking after this vulnerable little one who needs love and needs care, it's just a short step over to see, actually, Beck, you could put her in daycare. You could give her to a neighbor who's offered. You could let her cry when she's sad, or you should just let her cry and continue in your life. There are so many different things that I could do to give myself my 2 hands back in the day. But the truth is, I'm choosing based on my value set, and I'm just stomping my feet about the downsides and the negative consequences, trying to tell myself that I'm stuck when the truth is I'm choosing.
It is kind of hard because then I still feel like, ugh. But I think that's where I got to the last time with ward service, is like, because the other thing that comes with this is a sense of failure. So not only do I not feel free, I don't feel like I'm doing well in my life. And then if I try and swing over there and spend more time doing all the things that I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, that ward service is stopping me doing, including my business and all that stuff, it feels like all that stuff has to go on hold somehow. But if I try and lean into that a little bit more and compartmentalize ward service, if I try to put too many boundaries on ward service, then what I find is that I'm failing at ward service. I don't feel good about it. So the last time I was on ward service, I had younger, less experienced juniors. They were still amazing, really good doctors, but they weren't advanced trainees. And so it was just this thing where it was extra hard because my cognitive load was harder, just trying to make sure that everything was just so, and that I was making sure that I communicated every single little detail that might not be obvious and all that stuff. So it was just an extra. But what I realized there was, I was like, okay, I have this choice that you were just saying, where I can either lean into this and embrace it and do a good job of at least one thing, which would be the ward service, and show up for the patients and show up for the registrars and residents, or I can not do very well at that and go over here, and I'm probably not going to do anything well. Like if I'm trying to do all the things, I'm probably not going to do any of them well because it's just not possible. And so I did sort of surrender to the task at hand, and I made sure that I did an excellent job of ward service, to be fair. And so that was something to be proud of, and it was a choice. And what's also true is, like you're saying, and it still didn't feel nice. Like I still didn't feel like my 100% well, vitality, thriving self. Yeah.
You know, when we think about the problem being freedom here, we've got to separate this out a little bit, because what we're trying to do with this mindset is we're identifying the sense of freedom that we have forgotten about. We're seeing the sky behind the clouds when we're thinking that we're free. And the problem here being like having that feeling, carrying around that feeling on ward service and dreading ward service and being exhausted during ward service, because the whole time we're in this mindset of like, I'm trapped, I'm restricted, I'm not free. So the whole time we're carrying around that exhausting, sort of meta idea of I'm trapped, I'm forced, I'm not free. In this beautiful kind of reflection that you did with this ward service, you could see you have the freedom, you're exercising your freedom to choose not to fail on ward service, to use your words. You're making the choice not to fail, right? And that looks like you investing more time and energy into it. And the consequence of that is not being able to invest that time and energy into the other things that you want to do. And that feels like not freedom. We've got to not be confused that wasn't the choice that we freely made, just because we don't like the consequences, the downsides of that choice. And the other choice that we're making a choice to define that standard, anything below that standard that you've set for how you perform on ward service as failure. It's another point of choice. And I've had to redefine so many things in my life to be able to feel the way I want to feel and enjoy my life and make the decisions that I want to make. I've had to redefine so many things in my life to not be failures or not be wastes of time or not be wastes of my energy. I've had to redefine so many things. And that's a choice that I had so much trouble seeing before I had coaching in my life and before I had other people like you, Christine, in my life who could reflect that back to me and be like, is that the only way? Is that the only way to look at it? There's another point of choice we have. Do we have to define failure that way? But what you've done is, I think, a very beautiful, pure way of dealing with this situation. And without changing anything, you're just saying, I have a choice here to do this or do that. This has consequences and that has consequences. This has upsides and this has upsides. Which one am I picking? Without even trying to negotiate the upsides and the downsides and blah, blah, blah. Just in that moment, recognizing, oh, I am choosing this, even though the downsides suck. This is my choice in this situation. That's a really hard thing to do, because the moment that you get into, actually, I do have freedom, I'm making a choice here, we feel like we're not allowed to sort of stomp our feet and pout anymore about the downsides. I actually think it's really important that we let ourselves stomp our feet and be sad about the downsides. Just because you're making a choice doesn't mean that it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows and sparkles and goodness, does it? That's a confusion that steals a lot from us. If I was choosing, then I'd be happy with my choice. No, that's not how the world works.
And I think one choice begets another choice as well, isn't it? Because I think I'm lucky that right now I have a bit of lead time until the next ward service cycle. And I'm making so many decisions around, I feel like for other ward services, I haven't had enough lead time to get enough work done and enough of the rest of my life all sorted out to be able to sustain. Because what it's basically asking me to do, and I know I'm not the only person, people have private rooms and all that. It's such a common thing to have private practice and you have to shut it down for your ward service. So I don't have private practice, but I've got this business, and basically ward service, choosing to do ward service, which is a choice, like you say, Vic. It is a choice for my own personal development. I enjoy the other aspects of that, the actual interface with the patient, the registrars, that's the bit I like, and the hospital part. So I do choose to do it for my own professional development. And what's also true is it's kind of if it is cancel my everything, it's 2 months of the whole year. And a lot of people do a lot more than 2 months, but 2 months of my whole year, it's basically saying no to myself for the rest of everything else. So I guess making the choice to continue to do ward service, it means that the rest of the year, I'll have to make other decisions. What happens is, if I feel like I abandon myself, I abandon my freedom, I abandon myself. I think what I'm going to do, the next iteration of ward service, will let you know how it all goes, will be more coming at it like this, that the freedom is in the choice. Like I feel free that I have choices. And so I'm going to make the choice, understanding there's probably some pain attached to that choice, but pain management for me, reducing the pain, the Panadol to my situation, will be having hopefully about enough lead time that I'll have things good to go. For example, right now I'm hiring video editors to help me with YouTube and things, so that that happens in the background and could be compatible with that. So it's a lot of money and investment on my side, but I think that's the person I need to be in order to to thrive. I still want to be able to thrive. I can't let it go. But I guess I'm just understanding that I don't think I'm going to put my expectation as thriving like I normally do on a week when I'm not on ward service, when I have true freedom. I think I have to just understand like what I'm actually signing up for. I think that's going to be the closest I get. Do you think I should aim for more? Do you think I should aim for actually thriving? Like,
You're going to hate this when I say this. I know how annoying this is to hear. There's something I know this because I have to get coached on this myself too. Listen to this with like, this isn't me sitting on my high horse. This is me sitting on my like, this is my advice to myself too. I can still hear in your language that it doesn't feel like a choice to you. You know, you've said like, I have to do this and I need to do this. Like those words, they give me that forcing, restricted, compromising, settling kind of energy. And that's not the energy that you'd be in if you're like, I get to do my ward service and have my business. I get to do my ward service to the standard that is in my integrity and serve my business to the standard in my integrity. Because the truth is, if you're like, but, it's not possible to do both those to the standard of my integrity, we need to face that. If there truly isn't enough time or energy or changes that you can make to make that happen, then we need to change the situation so that you can be in your integrity. And if you are continuing to do both, then we need to recognize that we are not forced. That is our own decision. It is our genuine choice to do both. Not forced. This is our choice. We should be happy with our choices. Not because they're perfect, not because they don't come with any downsides, but because we're like, this is the best situation. If you don't believe it's the best situation, we need to change something. Maybe we do need to drop a bit of ward service. Maybe we do need to change our business plans, but something needs to change if you're not happy with your choice. We want to accept that everything has downsides, but if we're telling ourselves that this isn't my choice, I'm being forced, we're lying to ourselves.
that's a lot for me to hear. It's most inconvenient to...
Oh, let me tell you about my situation. I want to complain. This is me too, guys. I want to complain so much about like, poor me, like I've not been able to go and get a coffee today, or I got woken up so many times last night and another day being sleep deprived. Like I just want to complain about all the things that are now inconvenient or hard in my life having a newborn. I want to discharge this energy and feel a bit sad for myself. But if somebody was to come along and take my little bee and just put her in daycare on my behalf, because apparently I'm so, I've got so much to complain about, I'd be like, how dare you? I'm going to get her, like, cancel everything. Like, that is the truth. What I have right now is what I want. If I wanted something different, I would be doing something different. Look at your life right now. All the things that are in your life, the things you like and the things you don't like, in those superficial thoughts. If you didn't choose it, you wouldn't be doing it. Everything you have in your life is a choice. This is an opportunity for you to own those choices and with that stop feeling forced. It's an opportunity to stop spending all your time focusing on the downsides of your choices and recognize for a moment, oh, this is why I choose this. I choose this even with all these downsides because the upsides are more. And if you look at your life, because it's the first time you've ever reflected on your life, or it's the first time you've done it this year, this quarter, and you're like, oh, actually, the downsides outweigh the upsides. There's way more downsides here. Then change your choice. Nobody's stopping you. Nobody's stopping you. Not even if you're in a work contract. That's not stopping you. You can break a contract. There'll be consequences. And if the consequences of breaking that contract are too high, staying in the contract is your choice. You see where I'm going with this?
And do you know what you're making me realise? I feel like now I'm in relentless pursuit, because what I actually want is to be able to do all the things whilst thriving. The problem is with the Venn diagram, the word thriving just doesn't seem to, it gets booted out of the Venn diagram. It's sort of like squashed, like language, and the word thriving is like absent. So I need the Venn diagram to have the word thriving in it, or else I want no part of any of it. I just want to hide. I think that's my choice, and therefore...
You would rather get your results than be thriving.
No, not necessarily. Oh, I like thriving.
But your choices show us that. Like, you're like, this is my standard for ward service, I'm going to hit it. This is my standard for my business. These are the people I'm going to serve, I'm going to hit it. And you're like, those things dominate over you thriving.
At the time that I'm making those choices, I don't feel like I have a choice either. Like I was saying to you, I'm just going to choose to like do this one thing really well. But it was also kind of like a state of surrender. Like it's like when I'm on ward service, I no longer have a choice whether I'm on ward service or not. I'm in it. And no one's going to take it off me. I actually think what you're saying is so wise and so evolved. I think what I'm basically saying here is I started this episode with you thinking we're going to give them all the solutions and it's all going to be magical and it's going to be great. But where I think I am right now is understanding that I still have deep-rooted issues that I will have to continue to work on in my next iteration of ward service. And do you know what? I would be so fascinated by anyone else's advice, anything else that anyone feels like is coming up for them. Like if you're listening to this and you're like, me too, like can you just give us an emoji in the comments below? Let us know how this affects you. Even if you want to stay anonymous, just it would be fascinating to see if anyone had any solutions, anything you think really works. Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So join the conversation in the comments below.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. We will see you in our next one.
Bye.
Bye. We get so many heartfelt thank yous from our fellow doctors for having these vulnerable conversations on this public podcast. If you want to say thank you too, we would be most appreciative if you left our podcast a review. Reviews actually mean everything to us because they're what make the platform share this podcast with all the other doctor humans. And our mission is to make as many doctor humans as we can reach feel more human. Just go to the podcast app, click on the show, and find the option to review. The other way you can help us is just by sharing the podcast with someone in your life who you know will say, thank you for saying that, or tagging us on social media. And if you're in healthcare looking for speakers for your next event, or professionals who actually get it to facilitate the vulnerable conversations our teams of doctors need, request us through podcastfordoctors@gmail.com.